Hello, my name is James, and welcome to today's masterclass. Today, we're going to be talking about how you can excel as a product marketer when you understand the product lifecycle. So, let's dive right in and start with the fundamentals of what exactly product marketing is, right? Product marketing is the bridge between product development and the market. So, you see in the illustration here that product marketing sits in the middle of four major domains. That's the product team, marketing team, sales team, and customer success. So that's a very strong support that product marketing provides to all of these teams, right? And as a product marketer, your job is to understand the product so well that you know how to um, position that product in the minds of the customers that are actually going to use it. So you also need to understand who those customers are, what they like, what are the preferences they already have, and what are the alternatives they're already using at the moment to solve the problems that they probably have too, right? And then you come up with creative strategies that helps you to bring the product to market. And some of those strategies might be marketing strategies, they might be sales strategies, they might be product strategies as well, or even in the term of customer success and the general user experience. So there's a question that pops up very regularly about what is the difference between product marketing and product management. And even though they have a number of overlapping functions and areas, they are actually quite separate in their responsibilities, especially on a day-to-day. If you're a product manager, your focus will really be on developing and defining the product roadmap and the product vision, prioritizing what you're going to build now, what you're going to build later, and what you might not even build at all. Taking feedback and inputs from the customers, having all of those kind of interviews and surveys, and even basically observing user behavior. That's at the point where you already have like users or customers of your product. But when it comes to product marketing, you are representing the customers in those conversations with the product team. You are serving as the voice of the customer, right? Before you launch your product, during the launch, and even after the launch. And you representing the customers means that you've spoken with them, you understand them, and you know them even better than anybody else in the company, right? Yes, and one major responsibility that the product marketer has is in positioning and messaging. Positioning in the way the product is perceived in the mind of customers, and then messaging on how you're communicating the value of that product to customers. Because customers do not necessarily care about the features, the 2 billion megapixel camera that you probably have on your device, and HD surround sound, all of those things do not necessarily matter to a customer. All they want to know is how can it take them from here to there? How can it solve their problems? And how can it make their life better? So you want to develop the kind of communications that helps to properly pass the message of your product benefits, to the customers, and that's your responsibility as a product marketer. So you typically work with the sales team, the marketing team, the product team, and customer success to translate all of the messaging and positioning you've worked on into the various strategies that they are going to be employing. And as I've already touched now, you'll see that the product lifecycle is the different stages that the product goes through in its life, which majorly starts from development, right? Typically, there's someone called a product development manager that a product marketing manager works with, very early stage in the life of a product. So at this stage, you are basically developing the product, you are building the product before you launch it to market, right? So this is when you're going to be collecting, research from your target market, your target customer. You'll be considering lots of factors, and you'll be doing surveys, interviews, and all of that to determine if you build something and you bring it to market, the market is actually going to receive it, use it, and even pay for it, right? Because there's engineers or builders might typically think that they have the best idea in the world, and they go on to build a product, and then later on they find out that it's not really what they imagined. If you've watched the movie called Silicon Valley, it was a comic series some time ago where they built, this compression software. The guy was Peter Pied Piper. I mean, that was the name of the company. And one thing we learned basically from that movie was that you know you cannot engineer a product and bring it to market. You still have to talk to people talk to your users and your customers if it's something that, if you're building it right, even if it's a pressing problem, if you're not building it right, they're not going to use it, right? So after developing your product, then basically you want to introduce it to market, right? This is where product launches will typically come in, right? And this is where product marketers also thrive very heavily in how they introduce the product they've built into the market. And then when we have the growth phase, and the growth phase of a product is basically where you found an alignment with the market. So this is what we'll typically call product market fit, right? So you built a product, there is a market for it, the market loves it, they start to, use it, and then you are gaining traction and adoption of your product in the market. So therefore you are growing, right? Your product is growing, you're acquiring customers and all of that, and you probably expanded into new markets, and that comes to the maturity stage where the market is kind of saturated at this point. You've probably acquired all the customers that you can acquire for that your product in your defined market, right? So at maturity stage two, it's steady state such that the customers you are gaining and losing are fairly stable, right? You're not gaining massively new number of customers or losing massively new numbers of um, users all at the same time, right? So moving from there, we have the decline phase, right? The decline phase is where, depending on what kind of strategy you're already employing, you begin to see decline where, the rate of churn or how much customers you're losing is more than the number of customers you're gaining, into your product or into your business. And this might happen because, there are disruptors in the market, there are new innovations, there are new competitors that are coming in and are gaining market share from you faster than you can acquire new customers or innovate to catch up with them, right? And when you decline for a long time, then it comes to the part where you have to make a very big decision as to whether you're going to retire your product or you're going to renew it, in terms of repackaging your offering and coming up with a new, either a new product, or just repackaging what you already have, for it to look like a new thing, and then you can basically start again from maybe the development and introduction phase and repeat this life cycle. But this is typically what the product life cycle looks like. So you can think of any kind of product that you're familiar with, from software products that you have, typical like WhatsApp, Google Meet, Google Cloud, Google's ecosystem, to Microsoft, Apple, even think of your hardware like your Windows laptop, your Android and your iPhones, and think of devices you've probably used in the past like Blackberries and Nokia that have probably lost out of the market. They were at a phase where they were growing steadily, they matured, and then they started to decline. And at this point now, something like Blackberry has reached the retirement stage. They were not able to repackage or renew that product, and now they're out. So this applies to basically every kind of product. Like the way typically a human being, to you're born, you grow, you pass through like puberty, your teenage years, your youth stage, right? You mature, and then you also start to age, and there's no renewal for human beings to, when you get to, your retirement point, you just, there's no way for you to become young again, right? So let's move from there to how this applies to the product marketing function. So at the development stage, like I already described, is how you bring in your products to the market. At this stage, you are researching your customer preferences, you're looking at competitors, and you are crafting, a compelling value proposition. That's your function, right? Research. You do a lot of research at the development stage on how you can bring your product to market. So you want to find out if there's actually even a market for that product before you complete the build of it. So you want to know what your customers want, what they're already using at the time, what your competitors are doing, and how you position your product in the minds of your customers, with your value proposition and all of that. So yeah, this is what it typically looks like. And at the development stage as well, for instance, I'm going to give us an example. Let's look at Tesla, which is the electric car that Elon Musk has been working on since the early 2010s, right? There are a lot of research that has been done, research and development to create, electric vehicles. There's been investment in battery technology, charging infrastructure, and production, right? And Tesla has also been developing the autopilots and full self-driving capabilities of their electric cars till date. It's still in development. They've run some tests, but basically it's in development phase, right? for Tesla. There are also a lot of other examples we can use in this point of how product development works and what happens at this stage. Moving from the development stage, we move into introduction, which is like your product launch. And at this stage, you are bringing the product to market, right? So, what's major concerns for you at this point is how exactly do you position the product in the market? What are the best channels to reach your customers? What kind of promotional incentives or discounts are you going to use to acquire the next customer, and how you can get that to work so that you get referrals, basically to launch your products. And even thinking about Elon Musk again, Elon has been working on sending rockets to space, the SpaceX satellites. There's also been this research and development on how to send human beings into the moon as well. So yeah, your typical launch, that's what goes on at your introduction, and this is heavily where your product launch strategies will come into play as a product marketer. And coming to the introduction, right? This is how the iPhone was introduced into the market in 2007 by Steve Jobs during their Mac conference or thereabouts. Yeah, I said Steve Jobs was to cook iPhones, and he has done pretty well at that even after his death. People basically use iPhones not even because it's significantly better than any kind of other phone out there, but because um, there's a kind of status that comes with using an iPhone, right? It looks like if you're not using an iPhone, you are not in a certain class of people, right? And these are the kind of psychologies that you need to think about as a product marketer on how well you can position your product such that it's just natural, it's just the most advisable thing for customers to naturally gravitate towards yours and use your own product, right? So yeah, in 2007, Jobs challenged the market of smartphones. He compared to the phones existing at the time on how all the phones that had QWERTY keyboards, and how you need a bigger screen that can basically do anything at whatever point in time. It's very flexible. Talked about the limitations of a QWERTY keyboard and all of that. And now every phone is basically touchscreen, and even if they are not iPhones, they kind of mimic all of the capabilities of iPhones. So yeah, this is the introduction stage of your product life cycle. So you need to understand what stage your product is as a product marketer for you to craft the best strategies to approach that stage, right? Coming to the growth stage now, this is where you are struggling for market share. You've probably found product market fit. Now you're trying to get the most share of market that you can get as possible, right? So that's what's going on, at the growth stage. You can see someone basically trying to get a piece of the pie from maybe a larger entity, a larger competitor that probably owns the market. So you think about your typical fintech companies that have been challenging banks in opening, making financial services accessible to everybody, and banking the unbanked, and even unbanking the banks, where you see a lot of products that just spring out. We have multiple apps to do the same thing, right? And that's because everybody's competing for market share. At the growth stage, you can also think about how you can expand your offering to new markets, and basically get a bigger share in different places, right? So you need to understand what's going on too when you have successfully launched your product, and now you are growing fast, right? That's the growth stage. So you think about expanding your distribution to maybe new markets, advertising to kind of get more customers that look like the people you already have that are using your product and loving your product. You want to replicate their personas basically, and then you keep talking to your customers, so you don't build as you're improving your product experience and building more features, you're not building what they don't like or what they will not use. I'm also talking to them to know what their experiences with the products, and maybe they are facing any challenges or bugs. That's what you're doing at the growth stage, and you're fighting competitors at this stage, and you are expanding faster than they can catch on with you, right? So this is similar to what Netflix did in the early 2010s. It experienced rapid growth globally. They were expanding their library, invested a lot in content creation. They entered new markets. Even in my market at the moment, that's the African market, Nigerian market. I have been paying for Netflix for the past how many years now, and because they use a subscription model, I do not necessarily have to think about making payments every month. I just get debited and I see, oh, I've paid for a Netflix subscription. So these are kind of the ways that product marketers can think about user psychology and just basically build their product in a way that is just natural with human behavior to use the product and continue to grow. It's similar to the way product. So yeah, products. The product life cycle is continuous. So if you think about other products like maybe even WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram. Facebook has kind of declined over the years, but WhatsApp is still very efficient. WhatsApp has copied a lot of features, and even Instagram from like Snapchats in terms of like stories, and those have been used. Even in terms of differentiation, Instagram has been challenged by TikTok. TikTok is better than Instagram in how organic organic content can go to various places without even promotions. You can also download content on TikTok. Instagram does not have that functionality in inbuilt. There are also a couple of things, but think about how Instagram is also better at social commerce and sales and the likes. Also look at how Threads has tried to challenge Twitter, and but they've not even been successful, in collecting like a share of their own market. So yeah, these are things that happen in real life, and this is just understanding where the product is at whatever stage in time, right? So moving to maturity is where the product has gained steady share of market, and there is really not much you can do at this point than to continue to improve the product quality, invest more in customer service, develop loyalty programs for customers, and also build product extensions, keep releasing more features. Just the way new features are released on a lot of products that we use all the time, and we do not really pay a lot of attention to it. We just continue to flow, and that probably helps us to use the platform a bit longer for better. If you think about how some products that we used to have also been able to implement loyalty programs, like we've had a lot of this, Twitter verification and Instagram verification that kind of makes you feel like you're important on those platforms. And now you even have to pay for those verifications. But because you pay for it, you probably want to use it more. You'll be more engaged on those platforms. There is also the leaderboard thing that is going on LinkedIn at the time. You can become a LinkedIn top voice, and because of that, you're incentivized to keep using LinkedIn. You even get to, if you get a job through LinkedIn, there's an option for you to share that you got a job through LinkedIn on your profile. Also, if you start a new position somewhere, all of that are just thinking about user psychology and how you can build functionalities into your product that makes it easy for people to continue to use, that naturally tilt to leverage on just general human behavior, and that's what happened during maturity. So also think about Coca-Cola and Pepsi. They've been fighting for the longest time, and I think Coca-Cola has really done an excellent job especially in their campaigns. So look at the like Share a Coke campaign, where you want to buy a Coke bottle just because you might see your name on it, right? And it's not like they built or they produced it specifically for you, but they played around with a number of names, and there's a possibility that your name might be one of those names on Coke. And during this period, they recorded massive sales. So this is understanding that your products at the maturity stage, and you are fighting competitors. Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Now, I don't think any of them is really better than any of the other one, but it's just in terms of how they continue to rebrand and repackage and remarket, right? Their products at this time for them to gain, more market share, and that's what goes on in maturity. And then decline, obviously. At some point, some products get to the stage where they decline, and there are a couple of things you can do at this point. You're still focusing on customers, your profitable customer success. So you need to find out, okay, you now need to look at your data, conduct surveys. Who are the best kind of customers you have? You probably have a very large customer base, and some of them are inactive and churning. And then you have, like, in that same customer base, a couple of them that basically are using your product to fulfill a particular need. So you at this stage, you think about how you can double down on that. You retire some maybe products that you have in your catalog that are not necessarily doing very well, and focus on the ones that are profitable at this point. You offer discounts. Just try to revive the life of your product at this point. And if it's not successful, then you begin to plan for how you can transition your customer base into newer products or innovations, or build something different and see if that works. And that should be influenced by the data you found out from your customers. A good example of this is, decline is the BlackBerry, and the BlackBerry were not able to revive. They tried some strategies, at this point where they found out that they were losing market. They pushed the BBM, that was very domiciled, and within the BlackBerry ecosystem alone, they allowed it to be used by other phones at the time, but they did not survive for long, and they had to decline because new competitors like the Apple iPhone and Android smartphones were doing really good at the time, and they were losing markets to them as well, right? So that was what happened to BlackBerry. And basically, like I talked about, when your product declines so much, then you consider that, okay, we've gotten to the end of life. And if you cannot renew your product by rebranding or introducing new features or targeting new customer or market segments, then you need to retire that product. And at this point, you need to maintain good communication with your customers. They basically thank them for how they've been with you for this long, and see if you can transition them to a new service or alternative offering. And maybe if your company is being bought, how you transition them into the new company that's acquired your customer base essentially. And we see this with the iPod. This is the Apple being able to transition their customers from the iPod, right, to start using iPhones, because they put it into iTunes, and basically the customers all of the things that people loved about the iPod, they were able to benefit on the iPhone. And then they retired the iPod, and then focused on making the iPhone the number one smartphone in the world essentially. And this is what happens at various stages of your product life cycle. As at the time I took this, I was building this lecture, I've also built and delivered a number of different trainings on product marketing, growth marketing, tech sales, digital marketing, and how to build a professional career, and a number of other ones that I've probably not included in this list. And all of this can be accessed on my website. That's jamespraise.xyz/learn. And you will find a number of these resources. Some of them are free and some of them are paid for. If your interests are in technical skills like software engineering, cloud, and data engineering, I have affiliations with Seal Academy, Utiva, and Decagon and Old School Africa. These are schools that I recommend for you to check out. And yeah, basically for me, I'm trying to make sure that Sense is not domiciled in a particular location or a particular set of people. I want everybody to benefit from knowledge as much as I have them or have access to them, right? So I encourage you to share this with your siblings, with your friends, your enemies, the friend of your enemy, and your brother and your distant cousin, and anyone else you come across with that you think will benefit from this lecture.